Hi, my name is Celia Sekhanelepale, and I'm going to be answering a few questions on the national and international databases and advancing policy reform in education. My favorite database from all the databases that we've worked with on this module that we've learned about is definitely PEARLS, which compares the reading levels of fourth graders across the world. One particular reason that I love PEARLS is the fact that it is publicly and freely available for researchers, for policymakers, and whoever needs to access information. That person would be able to download and analyze it and use it in their research. As a teacher and as somebody who's in the educational sector, I'd use the information that I received or that I've obtained from PEARLS to look at the socio-economic factors, especially coming from a country such as South Africa, socio-economic factors that may affect the literacy levels, the reading levels of learners. I mean, we live in a country that is below the poverty line, that has high unemployment rate, where learners lack access to reading books. So I would particularly look at that and then try to create or to make tailored programs for my learners who are unable to access, reading material. I also look at identifying best practices by the high-performing countries and see how best we can suit or fit it into our curriculum and how to use it, and through the use of, through the PLCs, recommend teaching programs that can be used for teacher development in terms of teaching teachers, how to use the information obtained from PEARLS to improve reading in their classes. And I would also use the information to teach communities and parents on the importance of early literacy for learners, while learners are at home, what they can do to best prepare them for reading when they enter into the education system. And I think the PEARLS results would also assist me as a teacher to look at how transitioning from foundation phase to intermediate phase, from using just the mother tongue to using English as a content language for all subjects affects the learners, and then have a look at the policies that pertain to that particular fact and how they affect reading and literacy, and how we can come about with strategies to assist learners that are moving from their mother tongue to using another language to be able to read and be on par with their international counterparts. The next question that I'm going to answer is, who owns the big education data and how is it problematic? Yes, education data is owned by schools and universities, where students' personal records and assessment records are kept in your DBE, Department of Basic Education, would be your SAM system, where the students' personal records and assessment records are kept at school. Researchers and non-governmental organizations, there are private researchers who conduct researches. There are NGOs in the country and globally that own data. Government and education departments, governments, for example, own data such as the stats from the Stats SA. They also own stats that I used in my previous assessment, where I got the stats of the learners who were able to access technology during COVID, and the results of standardized tests, such as those that were previously done, like the ANAs, your Teams, your POS, and then there are also private companies like your Google Classroom, like your MS Teams, your Zoom, that owns your student interaction data. The second part of the question is the problems that are associated with the ownership of the big education data. Number one would be your privacy and security, where some databases are prone to hacking and unauthorized access, which may put children particularly at risk. Another issue would be transparency, where certain researchers, certain companies, share information without getting consent from the participants of the research that was taken. The third issue would be exploitation, where we find education technology companies selling data to third-party companies. That is data that is mostly obtained from your government departments, from your universities, without the consent of the participants or the people or the organizations that they obtained the data from. The last issue that I think is problematic would be ethical concerns, where the participants themselves, in particular, parents and learners, young learners, do not have a say or the authority to dictate on how their information is used. For this module, I would really like to acknowledge my lecturers and their assistants for our weekly meetings and for always availing themselves and having that open door policies where questions could be posed through the online meetings or via emails. I would also like to thank and acknowledge my husband, who has made sure that I have constant internet access, who has given me support through my studies, who has made sure that the house runs smoothly while I concentrate on my studies. I would also like to thank my friend and my fellow student who I have never ever met, Mr. Jonas Letswalo, who has, through my studies, been a support system, who has encouraged me on days when I felt really, really low and wanted to quit. I would like to thank my teachers, my fellow teachers, and including my mentor teacher, whom I've practiced some of the concepts that I've learned through this module on, and that they have been such good spots to let me, practice whatever I've learned or to implement some of the things that I've learned from this module. I would like to thank, my school as a whole. Without them knowing, I've made observations that I've indicated in some of my reflections, and I'm really grateful to work in such a conducive environment that still needs development, that I saw gaps. I could identify gaps and talk about them in my reflections. And lastly, I would like to thank myself for pulling it up to this far, because there were times and moments when I felt I was not capable of doing certain things, when I felt like giving up, but I chose to carry on. Thank you very much for a good module, and I hope that the information that I've obtained from this module will be used accordingly in future and presently where I am placed. Thank you very much.